Okay. So Geshe we're ready to start whenever you are.
Yeah, you can show that prayer to me.
Okay.
Yeah. Fine. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I created through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Okay. So good morning, evening, afternoon, night, whatever. And wonderful to see all of you once again. The prayer that we recited just now says that may I become Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. That means in order to be able to truly help others, it is important that you should be enlightened. If you are completely enlightened, then you are able to read other people's mind. You will be able to know what was their past lives karma and the direction they are going to go and so forth. So therefore, according to the situation of the past, present, and future, the enlightened Buddha or enlightened beings can really give you a proper guidance. And before you are completely enlightened, you may help them a little bit, but it's difficult to help in the right way. So therefore, it is important to get completely enlightened. A teacher cannot teach his student if he has no knowledge. So similarly, without having proper knowledge, it is not possible for oneself to help others in the true sense of the term. So we were reading, we finished reading point 4 of the 10 things to rely upon. So today we are going to read point number 5, where it says, rely on pith instructions transmitted through successive accomplished masters without prejudice. That means after getting all the needed facilities for one's livelihood, if you are to do Dharma practice, then question is what kind of Dharma practice that you should do. There are two practices, one for giving teaching, another is for practicing. So out of these two, practicing is more important. Now, when it comes to practicing the teaching, it should be a practice which has been transmitted through qualified, accomplished masters of the past. In other words, it should be a teaching that has come to you through successive accomplished masters who had actually practiced and lived the meaning taught in the sutras and the tantras. So it should be based on experiential teaching of great masters, which is not that easy to find. For example, in today's world, there are many teachers. They may have good motivation, but it is not easy for them to have the right experience, needed experience, because you need to spend a lot of time doing your personal practice, right? So the teaching that you received from a qualified master who has himself or herself been practicing, then that will be called what we call as the pith instruction. So now when it comes to receiving the teachings from the accomplished masters or siddhas, who are the siddhas? Are we talking about the siddhas of just one particular lineage? Here in this case, we are reading the Chokyi text. So there are we talking about only the accomplished masters of the Chokyi lineage? No. It is from all lineage. That's why he says, rely on pith instructions transmitted through successive accomplished masters without prejudice. Teaching is teaching. Experience is experience. So instead of having that respect, impartial respect to all the great teachers of all the 5-6 lineages, if you say that my lineage is the best one, then it will become like a communist propaganda. Because the more you get these teachings from different qualified masters, the more you are able to get a larger perspective of the reality. And that will help you remove many of your doubts and questions. Right? So with that kind of thinking, if your mind is biased, thinking that my view, my philosophy, my teaching, this is what we do all the time, is the best, then this will again become holding on to one's own view as the supreme view, that will also become another source of bondage in the samsara. That will become a cause for the bondage. So be it from the Sakya tradition, from Nyingma tradition, from Gelug tradition, or from Kagyu tradition, you should receive those teachings from qualified masters of those traditions. And because of your clinging to your own view, if you look at other teachings as little bit lower or inferior, then this is committing the negative deeds of abandoning the Dharma. Even in the case of the teaching of the Buddha, some of the teachings are primarily aimed for Mahayana followers, others are primarily aimed for the Theravada practitioners. So here in this case also, if you think I'm follower of Mahayana, so the Theravada teachings are not relevant to me, this is also abandoning the teaching, because all these teachings are taught by the same teacher, the Buddha, right? So therefore, as is said by Aryadeva in his text called 400 Verses, if you have this attachment to your own side and disliking to other side, then you will not achieve liberation. You will not achieve liberation. And similarly, I think it is Chandarakshita who in his Essence of Madhyamika says that if your mind is tormented by partiality, you will never realize or experience peace. So therefore, when not only during the time of meditation, but also in terms of contemplation and listening, you should listen and contemplate to all the teachings without partiality. Just like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who received teachings from all the great masters, not just one lineage. This is very important. Recently, in the library, I commissioned to publish all the Lamrim texts of all the schools. And the one that we recently published was the Lamrim of the Pon tradition. And when I got it published and read the titles, it is more or less similar to all the Lamrims that we have in all the other traditions. So the point that I'm making is, if you develop this proper understanding of what teachings are given in other traditions, then you will be able to know. And without knowing that, if you simply say, oh, our teachings are better, other teachings are inferior, lower, that is committing heinous crime of abandoning the Dharma. Right? The Buddha himself gave many levels of teachings to benefit sentient beings, because we have different kind of mental dispositions and capacities. So this is important. But this does not mean to say that when you are at a beginning stage, then at that time you should focus more on your own textbook, because your mind is not ready enough to imbibe all the qualities from other teachers. So in the beginning, when you are studying in a monastery, you focus on the textbook that is given there. And without focus on that, if you try to read all kinds of books on communism, books on Western philosophy, books on medicine, books on other traditions, you will be lost. So that's why when His Holiness the Dalai Lama asked the library to start this project of teaching science to the monastics, and we made it a point that only those monks and nuns who have at least finished 6-7 years of Buddhist studies should join the science courses. The reason is because without having any foundation, if you start reading many other texts, then you might, you may not be able to appreciate your own philosophy, your own view. You might get lost, right? But when you reach on a little bit higher level and has the mental capacity to decide what is good for you, what is not good for others, or things like that, then you should read more, right? For example, in my own case also, I read a lot of books. Western philosophy, science, education, health, so many books. At my back, you don't see, you hardly see any books. But on the other side, I have just books and books, nothing else. But by reading these books, it's only kind of strengthens my own understanding of Buddhist teaching. It does not, destroy my faith, because I have solid foundation in my own faith, in my own study. Right? So then the next point number 6, rely on profound things. That means auspicious causal connection, mantra, medicine, and substance that are beneficial to oneself and others. That means when you undertake the practice of the pith instructions given by the teachers, then at that time you should be skillful how to do the practice. You should not be, foolhardy or stubborn. Because we do find many people who really got so interested in the teaching that they become very stubborn and forget to take care of their food, forget to take care of their health, and thereby they become ill and sick. Buddha taught the middle way. So remember that middle way teaching throughout your practices, and especially the life based on which you are going to do the practice is a precious human life, possessing the 6 constituents. And it is important to make, if you really want to do good Dharma practice, it is important first you take care of your health so that you are able to live long life doing the practice. As Muchu Thome Sangpo in his 37, somewhere else, Muchu Thome Sangpo says, if you are going to live long, it is good to live long, because then you will be able to develop experience, you will be able to develop understanding and realization, and without losing the moisture and the warmth of the instruction, you will be able to stabilize it if you live long, right? Sometimes we do feel that we do a lot of studying, reading, then when you're a little bit of age, then sometimes you start thinking, okay, now I have no time to consolidate all my practices, right? So it's important to live long and take good care of your health. So for that, he says, you should rely upon those substances that is good for you and good for others. This is like, in order to dispel darkness, if you use a butter lamp, then it's important not only to burn the butter lamp, but make sure that the butter lamp stays long. And in order to make sure that the butter lamp burns longer, you need to, supply, you need to feed it with oil regularly. If you don't put the facilitating factors like the butter and the proper wicks and so forth, then but if you simply remain stubborn thinking that this will continue, it will not continue. It will get extinguished. So therefore, you should rely on profound substances. Profound substances are those substances which are encouraged and practiced in the tantric practices. like the eye medicine, the sword, and so forth. I mean, in other words, there are practices taught in Tantra which will help you prolong your life. Like, for example, receiving the long life empowerment, and and you don't have to just stick to the tantric teaching, but use some of the modern technological facilities. Nowadays, you don't have to burn a butter lamp. Instead, you can, use an automatic, torch and things like that. So when you are engaging listening and thinking and meditation, many of these technological products are very useful. If there is a very important teaching in New York and you want to attend it, you can quickly go. You need to spend some money, but otherwise you can go anywhere now. So use those facilities. Use those facilities. So instead of using these facilities, if you remain stubborn and say, I will walk all the way, you will never reach there. You will never reach there, right? And similarly, oven that you use, you can't use the same oven that you used to use before, which is smoky and need a lot of fuel and things like that, right? So use some of these substances, important substances, which will facilitate your practice. And these technological products, they are called facilities. So make sure they become facilities, not distractions. Sometimes we go after them, get distracted, but unable to use them as facilities. Next is profound medicine. Profound medicine means there are all types of medicines in the Tibetan tradition, Ayurvedic tradition, and in the modern tradition also. There are so many, good medicines. And if you're sure that you had consulted a good doctor, and based on your personal experience also, you are sure that medicine is good, then you should use that medicine. But again, you need to be a little bit careful in terms of getting the modern medicine, because medicine has also become a big business. So the most important thing is don't get sick. If you get sick, then God knows in what kind of doctor you are going to seek the help. Unfortunately, many doctors are just waiting for patients to grab their money. So the most important thing is don't get sick. Is it possible not to get sick? Generally speaking, possible. Because you get sick because you take wrong food. You get sick because you don't take enough rest. You get sick because you don't do the needed exercise. You get sick because you don't drink enough water. All these simple things which we ignore. You get sick because there's overconsumption of, sugar or butter or so many other things. So all your sufferings, all your sicknesses are actually created by yourself. Yes, some of the circumstantial factors are there, but it is primarily in your hand. So take good care of yourself, right? So therefore, even in the case of a practitioner like a monk or a nun or a ngakpa, if you say, oh, I am a monk, I am a nun, I'll not get sick, Dharma will protect me. So no need to go to a doctor, no need to take medicine, no need to take food. Then you will become sick. That is called stupid, short-sighted stubbornness. And in fact, the Buddha himself said that the Buddha's follower, the ordained sanghas, must take medicine. Must take medicine means medicine is not only the medicine that we get from the market. Medicine, food is your medicine. In the Buddha's teaching, it is said that the food should be taken as a medicine, meaning don't take too much, don't take too less. In the case of medicine, you don't take too much medicine. If you take too much medicine, you will get sick. If you get too little, it will not help you. So there again, moderation. The food also, you should have moderation. Not too much, not too less. And therefore, the Buddha said that his followers should take medicine. And in fact, he went to the extent of saying that if some of the sanghas don't have money to buy medicine, then the offerings that is made in the temple should be used to buy medicine, to treat the sanghas, to help the sanghas. And then rely on profound mantra by undergoing retreat, reciting mantras. You can prolong your life. Unfortunately, normally people don't believe much in all these things, but mantras are almost like tested secret formulas. If you just recite one mantra like Om Mani Padme Hum, it contains all the teachings of the Buddha. It talks about how to transform yourself through method and wisdom and get enlightened. So these mantras are really, really like very powerful formulas, and they are very, very powerful. So therefore, rely on recitation of these mantras, if possible, with a good understanding of the meaning of the mantras that you can actualize. So by relying on profound mantra, you can prolong your life, you can free yourself from sickness, and you can also be able to achieve many common and uncommon attainments. Right? Then the last is rely on profound dependent relation. Profound dependent relation in this case means that our body is affected by the moving constellations, the sun, the moon, the wind, we live within a particular environment. The environment affects us. So it is important, for example, if you're going to construct a house in the Buddhist system and the Tibetan system, there are ways of examining the ground, whether it's suitable for construction or not, whether it's a good place for constructing a residence or not. Then on which side the doors should be, which side of the direction your doors should be, your windows should be. All these things are taught, right? So therefore it is important. And when you embark on a journey also, if possible, pay some attention to it. It's not that important. It's not something like unavoidable, but if possible, it is good. Just like, for example, the relation between the teacher and the student. Both in the case of the teacher and the student, there should be auspicious connection, auspicious interdependency, meaning that there may be a karmic connection, which you or I may not be able to read it, but as much as possible, if you are a student, try to understand the teacher, whether the teacher is living in accordance with his teaching or not, whether the teacher is compassionate or not, whether the teacher is learned or not. You should examine all this, not out of respect, but with due respect, right? Because you cannot submit yourself to somebody who doesn't have the needed qualification, right? So similarly, the teacher should also examine the student. These days, there are many who just ask different questions, who come to interview. They simply want to get their job done for a payment or things like that. That's not for practice. Unfortunately, these days you have to attend to many of these things. I, for one, is one who is bothered by so many people. Geshe, can I do an interview? Geshe, can I ask these questions? So many people do this, but they are not doing this primarily for practice. They are doing this as a profession. So of course we need to help them, but it's important. If you are going to receive somebody as your student, it is really important to judge, to analyze, right? Otherwise, it will be like without examining, drinking the poison. So both the teacher, if there is a wrong connection, a wrong relationship between the teacher and the student, both will be ruined. There are cases of teachers who may be very good teacher, but later on, due to some of his students or his attendants and so forth, the teacher also gets spoiled. Teachers also not Buddha, they are also human being. So they are also ruined. And there are cases of people who are really in the beginning very good student, but after contacting and receiving teaching from certain teachers, the student becomes spoiled. Instead of improving his spiritual qualities, he will become more arrogant, more, biased, and so the teacher gets spoiled, the student gets spoiled. So therefore, it is important to examine the relationship between the teacher and the student. The number seven is rely on ways, means, and food that are suitable to your constituents. So he's saying few things. One, each of us different physical makeup, different mental makeup. So when it comes to taking the food, a particular kind of food may be very good for a particular person, but not necessarily good for you. So you cannot eat certain food because others are eating, right? So you need to know what is your physical and mental temperament, because you have different elements, different constituents, right? And because of this, everybody has different mental perspectives also, right? So this physical body is made up of four elements. These four elements are antagonistic. They're enemy to each other. When the power of these four elements are equal, then only on that level we say, I'm healthy. But if there's a slight disruption of this power, then we become sick. So maintaining health means maintaining the balance of the power of these 4 or 5 elements. And therefore, in order to maintain this balance, to be healthy, you need to take those foods which are good for maintaining this balance. When the balance is lost, you become sick. When you become sick, you go to a doctor to take medicine. At least according to Tibetan medicine, medicine is to balance that unbalanced state of the 4 elements. So it is in this connection, maintaining environment now also becomes so important, because the medicine comes from the environment. If the environment itself is polluted, then imagine the food you get is polluted, the medicine you get is polluted. To some extent, this is what we have already started experiencing now, unfortunately. So therefore, it is not only the medicine and food that you take, but you should also see from where the sources of those food, those medicines, whether it's clean or not. So therefore, at least in the case of Tibetan medical, tradition, they go to collect the medicinal herbs from high mountains, pure areas. You cannot have many of these things, number one, available in big cities, but even if it is available there, they're all polluted, cannot use for medicine. So therefore, whether it's food or whatever, use only those which you think is suitable to you. And sometimes we are so, I don't know which word I should use. We are so stupid or innocent. Sometimes we know that this food is not good for me, but still you think, oh, it should be okay. It is delicious, so it should be okay. Hot spice is not good for me, but I like it. Right? Sweet is not so good for me, but I like it. So with this kind of tendency, you keep on eating the same food, which ruins your health. So therefore, I'm here not talking about profound Buddhist practices, but I'm talking about the importance of being careful about the food you eat. If you take that step, you're already making a lot of progress. Can you do that? Can you stop? Or can you lessen the food that you know is not good for your health? Can you lessen it? I've tested this few times in my own case. For example, sometimes I take particular food in the morning, then around in the evening, you get some problem. Then I immediately check, okay, I might have eaten the wrong food. What kind of food that I took this morning? Then I mark that food, and next day also I take it to see whether I get the same sickness in the evening. So if it is still continuing, then I know this is the source. Then I throw it away or give it to some other people who have no problem. So you should really do that experiment. And then there are other foods like rice or the carbohydrate kind of food. Everybody says there's a lot of sugar. They are not good for your health, but we keep on eating. You see, so if you can't stop it, at least lessen it. Lessen the consumption. And one of my strategy towards food is that while you can eat, you should eat less of those food that you really like. If you eat but very less, then you can eat that food that you like for the rest of your life. But because you like it, if you take too much, then after a few days, the doctor will say, okay, you have diabetes, you have blood pressure. Then you can't eat any of those things that you want to eat. So have moderation, have moderation. And then, of course, it is clearly taught in Buddhist teaching that before you go to sleep, eat much less food. Sometimes if you eat too much just before sleeping, and worst thing is just eat the food and then sleep immediately without, giving some break, then you feel very uncomfortable in your bed. And sometimes you get nightmares also, bad dreams also, showing that your body is disturbed completely, right? So eat less, little bit less, and then before you actually sleep, at least 2 hours, something like that. Okay, I'm not a doctor, but I'm a senior person, old person, so many of you have that experience, so uh, we should practice what we know. Okay. Then the next one is rely on ways and means. Ways and means here means like yoga or understanding your energy flow, understanding your function of your channels. So if you're young and healthy, then some of this strong yoga practices may be useful. But if you're a little bit elderly, you have to be very careful. Then there are also practices called soft yoga practices or hard yoga practices. So elderly people should do the soft yoga practice, not the hard ones. That's number one. Number two, whether you do yoga or any other exercise, you should do it as much as possible every day a little bit. So the stiffness in your body will not be there. If you just do it for a few days and then don't do it for months, you will be crippled very soon. So all this, in order to, remain healthy, you need to use all these organs. Hand, mouth, eye, ear, there are ear exercises, eye exercises, mouth exercises, cheek exercises, leg exercises, especially leg exercises, so important for elderly people, right? So do some of these practices, including the yoga, and that will help you prolong your life and get less illness. And the practice of yoga is now very widely circulated. And this does not mean to say that the yoga practice is not in the Buddhist teaching. It is there in the Buddhist teaching, especially in the tantric practice. The yogic teachings are there. But in the Tibetan tradition, the yoga practice is not done so openly because, especially in the monasteries, because the focus in the monasteries is practice of monastic discipline, Vinaya. So doing those kind of yogic practices is a little bit discouraged. But of course, if you learn it from a qualified teacher, qualified master, then of course we can do it. There's no harm with that. Okay. Next is rely on conducts and dharma practice that are beneficial to one's experiences. One's experiences, he says. So not only you should resort to those food, medicine, and so forth for the benefit of your body, you should also do something that is good for the experience of your mind. That's what he's saying in this line. Do something that is good for your experience. Meaning that whatever experiences you have, that you have developed through listening, through contemplation, through meditation, so all those dharma studies and conducts and ways of life, which is facilitating, which is conducive for your listening, for your contemplation, for your meditation, then you should use those things. For example, while we are engaging in listening and contemplation, that is important. Then it's important that you have access to all these great textbooks by the great teachers. Read them. Read them. And many of these texts, like as His Holiness wrote in the Praise to the 17 Nalanda scholars, in the end, he made a summary of that text by saying that if you really pay attention to these teachings of Nagarjuna and so forth, they are really like precious gems which can solve all kind of problems in the world. So read those texts. So that means when you are engaging in study, then you should also be very careful about your behavior, your conduct, right? Where you're going, what you're eating, with what kind of people you're associating. All this is important. And especially when you do your practice, if those studies and readings does not help improve your experience, then even if that text or their teaching has a name called profound teaching, it is not profound to you. So you should see whether it is beneficial to you or not. Profundity means not just the text itself is profound, but to you it should be profound. Right? And in order to get this profound meaning, you need to learn one thing. You need to spend a little bit of time sitting and reading and meditating on those texts. It's important. Most of us are, unfortunately, these days, most of us think I have no time. Everybody says I have no time. I don't know. We all have the same time, like the Dalai Lama. Mother Teresa did not have a longer time than us. Mahatma Gandhi did not have a longer time than us. His Holiness Dalai Lama also has only 24 hours. We also have 24 hours. So the point that I'm making is, when you say you have no time, especially when you say you have no time for Dharma practice, you are saying that I have many more other important things to do than Dharma practice. That's what you are saying. If that is how you think, then there's nothing that we can do, right? But that is a big loss, because you are forgetting the most important thing and paying attention to the less important thing. This is what we do all the time. We pay so much attention, we pay so much money to be able to enjoy the sensual objects. In order to collect material things, we work like a donkey day and night, 24 hours or whatever. We work very hard. And how many people are working that hard for spiritual enlightenment or achievement? Very few, countable people, right? So therefore, I understand that we need to do work for our livelihood, but it's important to spend a good amount of your time for your study, for your reflection, to understand the meaning of this precious human life, right? So therefore, your practice should be such that it will help you calm your mind. That helps you sit comfortably on the meditation seat. So therefore, in this case, for example, one facilitating factor for your meditation, if you are doing a meditation on, say, shamat meditation or calm abiding meditation, then one important facilitating factor is the seat on which you are doing the meditation. If the seat is not nicely prepared, if it is lopsided and especially falling backward, you can't sit. When you are physically uncomfortable, how can you have comfortable mind, a calm mind? So therefore, even in the case of the sitting arrangement, you said the seat should be a little bit higher from the rear side so that you don't get easily tired. So that's the meaning. So because you are still an ordinary human being, so prepare all these facilitating factors. If you have the comfort of having a separate room, like a shrine room, altar room, then go there, do meditation. Facilitating factors are there. For example, just like a student, if you're a student, I always tell people, if you're a student, then one of the important factors is that you should have a nice table and nice chair. Inviting, nice looking chair, nice looking table, plus nice pens, nice books, nice reference. If all these are there, lying at one side of the room or wherever, then that environment itself will invite you to come and sit there and read. It's really helpful. For example, I have this table and all these materials with me, so I always end up sitting here, right? Right? So if you don't have any books around, any pens around, any scriptures around, how are you going to do the practice? You're not Milarepa. If you're Milarepa, then you don't need any of these things because your inner realization is so great. For ordinary people, we need these facilitating factors. And similarly, when you do the cross-legged meditation, again, you should see whether it is good for your practice or not. If it is hurting you, you can't sit in a cross-legged position. But simply because it is said in the text, if you force yourself, then instead of being able to do a proper meditation, you will meditate on the hurting knee and hurting back. So how can you do meditations? Meditation is done by the mind, right? But the mind is still dependent on the body. So if the body has a lot of problem, uncomfortable, experiences, you can't do a proper successful meditation. So therefore, it is, if you are unable to do, don't sit in a cross-legged position. Sit on a chair like Maitreya Buddha. He is also sitting on a chair. So in this way, first you should get a good sublime teacher, and then go to a place of solitude, and then through that way you are able to develop those experiences and realizations. And then gradually you also make a lot of progress, and then you yourself will also become a teacher now. You yourself also become a lama. Then in that case, how should you look after the teacher? What kind of student you should find? If you yourself become a teacher or a lama, then what kind of teacher, or what kind of student you should find? That's what he said in the next line. Rely on students who are fortunate and possess faith and veneration. Rely on students who have faith, who have veneration. Fortunate student means students who have this receptivity, who have this faith to the teaching, who have this faith to the teacher from the depth of one's mind. And as a sign of having this mental veneration and faith, physically also he should have this veneration. So here when you use the word faith and veneration, faith is of the mind, veneration is of the body. There should be a sign of humility. Because if there is faith and veneration, then just as is taught by the teacher, the student will also keep that in his mind, and then he will be benefited. And this is how that student becomes a fortunate student. You become a fortunate student not because you have a famous teacher, but you become a fortunate student because you have faith, you have veneration, and you listen and keep the teaching in your mind. If the student is devoid of faith, devoid of veneration, then even if the Lama gives a very good teaching, the student will not make any effort from his or her own side. Therefore, it is of no benefit to them. So in that case, it is said the teaching given by the Lama is just another gossip. It's true, but it will become a gossip. It will become a pastime. Right? It's pastime. So therefore, it is important to examine the student. Number 10, always rely on conscientiousness and mindfulness in your 4 behaviors. So that means 4 behavior means when you do a long walk, or when you sit, or when you sleep, or when you do just some short walk here and there, in all these 4 behaviors, you should always mindful and conscientiousness or heedful of what your body is doing. Where are you going right now? In which direction you are going? What is your objective? To whom you are going to meet? Is it the right thing to do or not? Right? So you should uh, be mindful. And similarly, when you sit, also be mindful where you are sitting. You know, at the time of the Buddha, uh, there were few unruly monks who misbehaved, and once they went to a family, and without checking properly, one of the monks just sat down, and he sat down on a sleeping baby. So therefore, the Buddha made the discipline that when you're going to somebody's house or sitting somewhere, you should check carefully where you're sitting, where you're going, right? And especially in our case, the place where you go may be disruptive, maybe not a nice place. So be very careful. You may be going into the den of a robber or thief. It's possible. If you go in the wrong place, your money will be taken away. Okay. So therefore, mindfulness. And then conscientiousness meaning that just check whether your mind is staying on the chosen object or not. And therefore, Shantideva in his Bodhicharyavatara says, it is okay if I lose my name and fame. It is okay even if I lose my body. It's okay if I lose my livelihood. It's even okay if some of my virtuous practice is also lost. But never ever let your mind decline. Therefore, those who want to guard the mind, you should always guard it with the help of mindfulness and conscientiousness. I am saying this with my folded hand. It's a very powerful teaching given by the Buddha. So therefore, it is important, especially those of us who proclaim to be a practitioner. 37 Bodhisattva practices by Ngüchi Thongme Sangpo says, unless you examine your own mistakes in the garb of a religious person, you might end up doing irreligious activities. Therefore, always examining one's own mistake and abandoning them is a bodhisattva practice. Always be alert with whom you are going, with whom you are speaking, which direction you are going, what kind of food you are eating, all these things. Whatever you do, judge it properly. And you may have entered into the practice of Dharma and you might pretend that you are a good practitioner, but we are all beginners. So it is very easy that our body, mind, and speech get polluted. So therefore, it is important to always judge oneself. So you should become your own teacher with mindfulness and consciousness. You should be your own teacher. Don't wait for other people's guidance and instruction. Right? And the measure to judge it is what I'm doing, what I'm doing is in accordance with the teaching or not. Right? In the case of Milarepa also, in the beginning part of his life, he committed many negative deeds. But through mindfulness, examination, he found this is all wrong. And then he made a great effort and got enlightened in one lifetime. And if you maintain mindfulness and conscientiousness and heedfulness, seeing the wrongdoings as wrongdoing, then it is the nature of these negative deeds that with the passage of time, they will be eliminated. They can be eliminated. Okay. Next, having shown these 10 Dharma practices which you should adopt, now the next it explains about the 10 opposite practices which you should abandon, which you should give up. First of which is 10 things to give up or to be abandoned. Abandon a preceptor or mentor who, whatever he does, is entangled in the 8 worldly dharmas. So give up or abandon that teacher, that preceptor, who, whatever he does, is mixed with the 8 worldly practices. That means if he is praised, he becomes very happy. If somebody defames him, he feels very sad. If he gets some money, he feels very happy. If he doesn't get it, he feels very low, very sad. So these 8 worldly concerns are there. Then don't give up that person, that teacher. Even if that teacher has a big name and has many followers, abandon that person. Because in this world today, there are many eloquent people, who themselves don't do any practice, but very good in, fooling people. They are very eloquent. They're kind of demagogues. So they have many followers. So I mean, somebody having many followers doesn't mean that that person is really good. Like attracting people is not that difficult. Michael Jackson attracts more people, perhaps, than His Holiness. Something like that. Yeah, I met him in New York with His Holiness. Michael Jackson, His Holiness, and myself, we were sitting together. so, so like that, there are many like people who are very good in their art and can attract many people. That's different thing. That's a different thing. But in terms of Dharma practice, you should really follow those teachers who can help you achieve nirvana and enlightenment, not just entertain you. Right? That's what he's saying. So if the teacher is somebody who's really very focused about how to, get a new Mercedes car, how to how to make a big building, and how to earn name and fame, then the very objective of Dharma practice is lost. The very reason we enter into the Dharma is to find a teacher who can guide us to the path to liberation, who can guide us to the path of the great individuals. who can guide us into the path of the middling individual or at least small individual. He should be a teacher who can make his student's mind go to Dharma, and Dharma becomes a path, and path becomes a way to eliminate suffering. And then that mistaken state gradually dawns into wisdom awareness. So you need to rely upon such a teacher. So if such qualifications are not there, and then at least you should not go after a teacher who engages in irreligious activities, like engaging in the eight worldly dharmas. Okay. And similarly, in terms of meditation and practice also, if the so-called teacher is doing this meditation and practice in front of the masses, showing that he's a great practitioner, but in his own private room, he doesn't do any practice. So there is a duplicity. And even that kind of meditation and practice that he does in front of people, if he does it just to get money or in order to gather crowd or in order to increase his name, then you should not rely upon such a teacher, give up such a teacher. The reason we do meditation and practice is to eliminate afflictive emotions. Whether you start a monastery or you establish a temple, all these are supposed to be for removing the negative emotions, for helping the Buddha Dharma flourish, for helping suffering sentient beings. But if these are all mixed with eight worldly dharmas, then you're in a very difficult state. And this is actually happening in many places, unfortunately. The monasteries and temples become big and ornate, and the people who study there are not disciplined. Even their study is not that well. And then, unfortunately, still they have a lot of sponsors. That is not Dharma practice. So therefore, the teacher should be examined by the student. And having examined the teacher at the first place, even after accepting somebody as your teacher, after having done some kind of examination, and then even after having accepted the teacher, that doesn't mean you can't do any examination again. Continue to examine the teacher and see whether the teacher has really given you a good teaching or not. See whether after contacting that teacher, your obsession to this life has reduced or not. And see whether your understanding of the stages of the path has improved or not. And especially your practice of Mahayana has improved or not. And similarly, also see whether the Lama's own deeds and practices are in accordance with the Dharma or not. So through this examination, if you find that by relying on this teacher, your whole life is now going towards only for the fulfillment of this life, purposes of this life. And the Lama is also doing the same thing, mixed with eight worldly dharmas, then you are going to get nothing from such a teacher. It's better to give up and leave that teacher. Second, abandon or give up bad friends and companions, those around who harm the mind and the experience. So not only you should give up bad teachers, but you should also give up bad friends. And how will you judge whether somebody is a good friend or bad friend? This is clearly mentioned in which Thomas Sangha's 37 Bodhisattva practices, which I think I mentioned earlier, where he says that with whose association, or due to your association with somebody, if your force decline, and if your positive qualities multiply, increase like a waxing moon, then this is a clear indication that you are in association with a good friend, good spiritual friend. So therefore, prolong that friendship, maintain that friendship. Contrarily, by associating with somebody, if the three poisons increase and your practices of listening, contemplation, meditation decline, and you gradually you become a person of no love and no compassion to others, then you are clearly in association with a bad friend. So therefore, give up such a bad friend. Bad friend does not come with a frightful looking, wearing black cloth or bearing fangs or red eyes, not like that. They may also come as a really good friend. They may also shower upon you a lot of money to take you in the wrong place. Right? So it's so ordinarily we say, because this person has given me a lot of money, he is my very good friend. No, in Dharma practice, no. Even if somebody has given you a lot of money and other facilities, but through that way, if you are gradually taken to the wrong direction, then you are in association with a bad friend. Be very careful, very careful. It's not that easy to pick up the good habits from a good friend, but it's very easy to pick up the bad habits from a bad friend. Very easy. Very easy. Right? And unfortunately, mostly people go with not so good friends, which you find in the marketplace, which you find in a big mall, but not in a retreat center. As simple as that. Right? So therefore, give up those followers and friends that harms your mind and that harms your experience. Harms your mind means from a worldly viewpoint. Harms of your mind means harming your mind from a worldly point of view. For example, even if you had done no harm to anybody, but due to past karma or present circumstantial factors, if somebody develops resentment, and because of this, they try to harm your mind as much as possible. We do find such people who you have done nothing wrong, but they always try to harm you. So these people will harm your mind. And harming the experience means harming from the religious side. For example, when you are doing your Dharma practice, if you associate with somebody whose views and conducts are not in conformity or not in harmony with your views and conducts, and then there will be fight between you two. Who has the right view? Who has the wrong right of conduct? There will be fighting. There will be disharmony. In other words, another way of interpretation is harming the mind means harming temporarily. Harming the practice means harming for the long run. So in whatever be the case, don't associate with such people. And then your retainers, distance yourself from bad friends and retainers or followers. Followers means if as I explained earlier, if you're Lama, then you have, entourage members, attendants. And in the case of ordinary person, you have relatives, you have families, right? So there also you need to be very careful whether they are, harming your mind, harming your practice or not. For example, from worldly point of view, harming your mind means, for example, if you say, let us go to the temple, he will say, let us go to the market. Right? If you say, let us go to the east, he will say, let us go to the west. So whatever you say, whatever you do, he will say something opposite to that. So don't associate with such people. It will make your life miserable. They'll make your life miserable. So when you are surrounded by such followers, such students, such friends, or such girlfriend or boyfriend, then for 1 or 2 days you may practice patience. But it will be difficult for you to practice patience for many, many days to come. So finally it will lead to fighting, conflict. So when you associate with such people, forget about doing Dharma practice successfully. You will not achieve success even in your worldly activities. In terms of Dharma practice, you may be doing some practice for some time, and you may have developed some kind of understanding of renunciation, loving kindness, compassion, and so forth. But around that time, if you associate with wrong people, wrong relatives, wrong friends, then you will be distracted to worldly activities by associating with them. Right? So you need to be very careful because we are all kind of beginners. Right? So you need to be very careful. Okay, stop here. Few questions.
If you have a question, you can either put it in the chat or raise your hand. I have one question in the chat just from that last bit that Geshe Lhakdor was explaining, which is, what should I do if I cannot find friends who support my practice?
What?
The question is, what should I do if I cannot find friends who support my practice?
You should be your friend, number one. As we already read, that you should yourself be your teacher. Similarly, you should yourself be a friend to yourself, number one. In Buddhism, we talk about external tutor and internal tutor. So internal tutor means be a tutor to yourself, be a friend to yourself, number one. Number two, in this time of online and datas and digitals, you can always listen to His Holiness the Dalai Lama's teaching or any other teacher that you feel comfortable, reliable. So they're your friends. Real spiritual friend doesn't mean that you should always be living together. Actually, sometimes familiarity breeds contempt. If you live together, you may get more problem. So therefore, in Tibetan, there is a saying that the Lama's blessing will be greater from a distance. So you can use your technological facilities and have as many teachers as you want now. In ancient times, it's really difficult because you don't have, means to go to many places and meet all the teachers. Nowadays, you have so many online teachers. You don't have to, as I mentioned, you don't have to have somebody, living with you. For example, Buddha is not living with us today, but he is our friend, of course, most reliable friend. We don't even know where he's living these days, but all his teachings are there. And Gampopa, who wrote this text, at the end of this text, he says, those of you who did not have the fortune to meet me, don't feel sad. If you read this teaching of mine, this is similar to your having met me. Because even if you meet me personally, I have nothing more to say than what I've written here. So there's no shortage of friend in that sense. Okay? Yeah.
Namaste, Geshe La.
Namaste.
Very much for the teachings, and I'm wanting to clarify some mixed messages that I'm getting, and maybe a lot of us can relate to that are studying the jewel garland of realization by Gampopa, or a lot of the teachings that you say on the one hand to be, critical towards our teacher, but then we have like Samaya with a teacher that says that we should have like super pure view and not make, and also that's the first point, is the balance between like being discerning versus keeping pure Samaya. And the second point is, it says in the, and we're talking a bit about like cause and effect, and the teachings, they speak a lot about how horrible karma it is to make unvirtuous karma towards a holy being. So how can we balance this?
Number one,
Yeah.
Number one, I did not say be critical to your teacher. I did not use this word. I said investigate your teacher. Examine your teacher. I did not say critical. So when you investigate your teacher, examine your teacher, you are not showing disrespect to their person. You are quietly examining whether you should continue to rely upon this teacher or not. Now this investigation should be done before you accept somebody as your teacher. So when you do that, then there is no harm of breaking the samaya, because you didn't have any samaya. You were just examining, right? Now the more difficult point is, as I mentioned just now, that even after you have accepted somebody as your teacher, still you can examine. So there's a little bit more, problem. But there also, we are not saying that the Lama should be somebody where you did not find any fault. You will never find such a teacher. Because the Lama, whoever he or she is, came in the form of a human being. So he or she cannot be, perfect, number one. Secondly, whether the fault that you see in the Lama or the teacher is his fault, or it is the way you see it, it's also questionable, right? So therefore, for example, I remember when I was receiving this Guru Yoga Lama Chopa, commentary from His Holiness. There we have this mentioning that the Lama should be seen as a Buddha. Number one, of course, we are talking about Lama who is qualified. Now the question comes, how can I see my Lama as a Buddha? Because I see all these faults in the Lama. He may be good, he may be compassionate, he may have a lot of qualities, but still he has many, unhealthy habits also. So then His Holiness said, actually your Lama manifesting in that ordinary form, just by seeing that he has specially appeared in that ordinary form, is to benefit you. Because there's no way he can benefit you if he appears as a Buddha right in front of you. You may not be able to appreciate it. And I remember he's giving the example. For example, if you want to call the cat, you cannot, the best way to call the cat is to say meow. So for cat, you have to act like a cat. So similarly, for ordinary people also, the Lama comes as an ordinary person. And generally speaking, but I'm not implying that all teachers are like that. That of course you have to judge, right? And then the main criteria that I'm saying is that this is not saying the Lama has no fault at all. The Lama may make small mistakes here and there. That's okay. But the main thing is, as we discussed, he should have more knowledge and qualities by which he is able to teach. And even more important than that is he is compassionate. He's not too much concerned about name and fame and money, these things. If those things are there, then the Lama is a good Lama. Okay.
Thank you, Geshe Lhakdor. We have one, I'm going to ask Pranav for a question. I think that's how you pronounce it. And then we'll take some questions from the Russian group. And then I have more questions in the chat at this time.
Okay.
Let me. Can you unmute? There you go.
Yes, thank you, Geshe Lhakdor. Thank you so much. I had a question regarding, our responsibilities. So I had gone to Bodh Gaya on Buddha Purnima, and next day when I was just sitting there meditating there was a commotion. Some people were shouting, there's a temple for Buddhists. I went there to see what was happening. And suddenly some people in white t-shirts came and started hitting people. And I saw one guy hit a monk in his face, punch very hard. I said, "What kind of person are you? How can you hit a monk?" And then I was slapped. And then there was a cop in uniform. He shouted, "He is the leader. He has brought all these people here. Beat him." And then I was punched and slapped. And then that cop came and took me to a room, said, "I'll teach you a good lesson." Asked some cops to beat me. I didn't know at that time that these people in white t-shirts were cops. So when he took me into the room and then a woman also came there, some female cops wearing white t-shirts dragged a female also there. And at the back of the t-shirt, police was written. So it was cops beating actually monks and demonstrators who were saying that there's a place for Buddhists because there is some tension regarding Hindus also kind of worshipping there. And after about some people came, they said, we were the demonstrators, don't worry, we are standing outside the room, so nothing will happen. After half an hour, cops came and they let us go. When I went back to the temple, I mean, it was all, people were moved from there, and someone was shouting, some lady, that how can you throw cold water on the nun who was meditating here? So I think they had moved all the people from there. So I'm wondering, Geshe La, the statues that are kept, the statue of Pandavas and Draupadi, they are actually the statue of, anyone can see, Buddha and Tara. So Hindus are also being fooled by telling them that these are the Hindu deities and you worship them. And this news did not come out anywhere. And monks and people who are protesting and visitors, they are being beaten up. Buddhist visitors are being beaten up. So now this thing can get worse, with politics and this and that. So I'm wondering, if we find ourselves in these situations like I did, should we do something about it? Can we do something about it? What is it?
This is very complicated. I've been following the Bodh Gaya problem almost every day. And this is not much to do with religion. It is much to do with, I don't know how to say it. Many issues are related to that, very difficult to say. We can think about it on two levels. One, in the case of highly realized beings, they are not interested in one particular place as the most sacred, important place. The sacred place is always found in their mind, which nobody can destroy, nobody can grave. So Buddhists, on the one hand, I may say that they have the right to, pursue what they want. But at the same time, the most important thing is they should have the Buddha's teaching in their mind, which nobody can take it away from them. Places they can take from them. For example, the whole Tibet, with so many important holy places in Lhasa and elsewhere, they're all captured by China. Many of them not only captured, but more than 6,000 monasteries and temples were destroyed. And several thousands of monks and nuns and Tibetans were killed, and still this is happening. Right? But under the guidance of His Holiness, we did not resort to any kind of violence. That I think is very, very important. Because now you are entering into a situation. Now you are sitting there for more than 90 days already there. But according to what I heard from some of these Buddhist leaders, they were all saying that we'll do it in accordance with the Buddha's teaching, non-violence and things like that. So that I think is very, very important. Very important, because sometimes the miscreants, less informed people who may have their own agenda, they'll come and provoke and, beat people. And then, you're also ordinary human being. If somebody beats you, you might also retaliate, So the matter will become really worse. So for ordinary people, that's the way we struggle, It's not that easy for me to say anything, good or bad. But for more advanced practitioners, fighting for places, whichever place it is, I think it's not important. What is important is, for example, the Tibetans, I told you, we lost everything. But what we did not lose was the Tibetan teachers, like His Holiness Dalai Lama, who came with all that knowledge and experience with them. And because of that knowledge, that real experience, we started from scratch in India. And at that time, the most senior monks who were teaching were in their ripe old age, and the young novices were just to begin. So there was almost like 20 years gap. So at that time we were worried, how can we bridge the gap and produce, scholars? It was almost an uphill task, but because of His Holiness's vision and the effort of many leading teachers, now we managed to bridge that gap long time back. Now we have many good scholars produced by studying in those monastery temples. That is very, very important. Sometimes we call ourselves Buddhists, but we hardly study the Buddha's teaching. We hardly produce good scholars, right? Then in the long run, it will be very difficult. Yeah. And then also, of course, even if you have a right, whether the time and the place is right to pursue that or not, all these things has to be considered. Sometimes it is better to not to enter into a fray. Sometimes it is important to enter into the fray, I heard the story of a Tibetan warrior who is said to be very, very brave. So he would normally travel alone, riding on his horse and carrying a gun on his shoulder. So sometimes he may, hold there for a short time and start making tea. And then suddenly, without any reason, he would stop making the tea and he would just throw the water and pack and go. And then some of his friends, he said, why you are running away? There's nobody here. And he always says, sometimes it is, bravery to fight. Sometimes it is bravery to run away. So depending on the situation. But it's a complicated issue. I don't know. It's like so many years neglected issue. Yeah.
Thank you, Geshe-la. Anastasia, do you have any questions?
No, there is no question in Russian in the chat yet.
Okay.
Okay, we have time for a little bit more questions. Igor, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Unmute. Needs to be unmute.
Let's see if I can do it.
Sorry.
Yeah. You're controlling, Sheila, are you controlling?
I'm trying to unmute him. I don't even see his name in.
Igor
Yes.
Musik.
Uh,
Yeah,
There you are.
okay.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. Tas dilek and Geshe-la and Keranki Sincho Tuchenan. And thank you very much. I would like to ask a short question since we were talking. As we know, the effects of non-virtuous actions are very strong in the world. and the generation. And when we live in the parts of the world where Dharma is not so well known, or it's absolutely not taught, there are not teachers. And so while talking about leading or running away from the unconducive circumstances or unvirtuous friends, can you also say something about not to leaving them, but to using those appearance of unconducive circumstances as a fuel to our practice, as a fuel to powerful practices? Is it possible to say something about this? Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. As I mentioned, it depends up to your spiritual level and level of your practice. I remember one very senior teacher, Locho Rinpoche, who passed away some years back, and his reincarnation was also already come. And when he fled from Tibet, he spent many years, I think, in Calcutta, which is a very busy, place. But he said it did not make any effect in him, because he just go to his room and log it. That's it. I mean, the problem arises when you just go around and then, remain with the people, don't do your own practice. Then you get distracted, you see. And I met a few teachers like that. There's one teacher in Australia, Geshe Doga, who has been teaching in Australia for many, many years. He's a very senior teacher also. He also said, my practice in Australia is very, very nice, because there people don't come without being invited, So you go to the class and teach them, and then you're on your own. Nobody comes to bother you. So it's very good, you see. So it's primarily up to you. But if your situation is such that you just can't stay with the crowd, then the best option is to go to at least a relatively more, quiet and more comfortable for your practice. Yeah.
Thank you. Katin.
Mm.
Ipapane.
Mm.
That's
Mm. Okay.
So it's time for a few more questions.
Yeah, one question if you have.
One more question. Okay. It's the next one was, I get teased a lot for not going to parties, and a lot of my friends think it's old-fashioned to practice Buddhism. How should I deal with such friends?
What was the second part?
A lot of friends think it's old-fashioned to practice Buddhism. How should I deal with these friends?
It's an important decision you have to make, whether you want to please yourself or please your friends. It is important to have friends, but as I already mentioned, that at the end of the day, you need to take care of yourself. None of your friends will be able to take care of you. Right? So therefore you should be decisive, and let them say what they want. You don't have to pick a fight. But if the situation allows, and if the people are interested to listen, then you should explain to them what you're doing. You should tell them, no, this is what you do, this is what you think the life is, and this is what I do, and this is what I think life is. You need to explain that, you see. Is it better to just, dance and sing for, days on end, or just think about something to do for the society, to bring calmness of your mind, to remain in solitude, not wasting food, not wasting money? Which one is better? You need to have a healthy discussion with them. And you can also say, yeah, it may be fashion, but I like this fashion. You don't have to shy away from what you're practicing. You should say that, yeah, you think this is a fashion, but for me this is a very good fashion, and I'm going to practice this. This is such a wonderful teaching which I never heard before. Say that, be bold. So you don't have to shy away because you're becoming a Buddhist, Buddhism is not a cult, right? And of course, if somebody says Buddhism is a fashion, it's a fashion that prevailed for more than 2,500 years. So it means it's a really good fashion, which never gets outdated, So follow it. So you should be able to explain it to people sometimes. And give them some good advice. If they are your friend, then it is also your responsibility to give them good guidance. Okay? I mean, there's nothing wrong, people enjoying. Don't say don't enjoy. But if they're, just wasting their life, then as a friend, you can suggest them how to lead a better life. Okay? One more question?
One more question.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see here. The next question is, I feel very harmful after contacting with my mom because of lacking right views. That's what harms me very much. How should I maintain taking care of my family and at the same time keeping my peace?
There is a Tibetan saying, "Topa hada nyamya kunju medatu." That means your realization may be as high as a god, but your behavior should be normal. Okay? Try to live like an ordinary person with them. Don't act as if you're a superhuman and they are all on the wrong track. Don't give that kind of impression. If you give this kind of impression, then there will be problems. Right? Okay?
Thank you very much, Geshe La. So we're out of time, or should we finish up with the
Yeah.
dedication?
Yeah.
Okay, let me get that. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that is not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Ujjiche, thank you, Tashidale. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Спасибо.
Спасибо.
Спасибо. Bye.
Tukjiche, Gisela. Tukjiche.
Tukjiche. Oh yeah, Tukjiche.
Спасибо.
That's so.